The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, is a massive infrastructural project announced for the first time in 2013. It is part of the broader One Belt One Road initiative launched in the same year. However, the CPEC has recently received several setbacks that are raising doubts over its completion. So what is the future of this project? I'm your host Kasim, welcome to another KJ vid. In this video we will discuss the status of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Just before we begin, we would like to invite you to our Patreon account where you can get the full reports and other perks for our content. Supporting us on Patreon helps us to keep our channel independent and create more videos. CPEC is one of the 6 economic corridors that China is creating in cooperation with other countries in the context of the One Belt One Road initiative to improve transportation, intensify trade and boost the respective economies, with the broader aim of extending China's economic and political presence across the globe and ultimately reaching the vast European market. CPEC should pass through Pakistan to connect China's landlocked Xinjiang province with the Arabian Sea, and it pursues multiple objectives. First, Xinjiang hosts significant natural resources but is economically poor and affected by discontent among the local Uyghur population. With CPEC and other region-focused projects, China wants to develop the area so to improve its living conditions, exploit its economic assets, and make of it a crossroad for east-west trade. Secondly, China wants to open an alternative access to the ocean. Today, cargoes sailing to and from Europe as well as oil tankers from the Middle East need to pass through Malacca and other straits, which are extremely vulnerable choke points that could easily be blocked by the US Navy in case of war. This would be catastrophic for China, which consequently wants to have an access to the sea that avoids these exposed passages. Finally, CPEC will foster relations with Pakistan. The two countries are already primary partners, and the project will create closer ties by increasing economic interdependency and by improving the living condition of locals. A solid bilateral partnership is also mutually beneficial considering their relations with India. But especially for Pakistan, having China as an ally is extremely useful to keep India at bay. But the contrary is also true, even though Beijing tries to downplay the existing problems with New Delhi. To reach these strategic objectives, China plans to build a series of infrastructure projects in Pakistan. Up to now, it has already invested at least $60 billion in the initiative, which includes motorways, railways, ports, electric power plants, pipelines and more. Several special economic zones will also be established. All these projects will be connected one with the other to some degree, with the aim to create economic prosperity and link Xinjiang with Pakistan's southern shores. A particular relevance has been given to Gwadar, located in southwestern Pakistan along the coast next to Iran. It will be the endpoint of CPEC and one of its main centres. In particular, Gwadar's harbour is being expanded and upgraded. It will be transformed into a smart port surrounded by a special economic zone that will host a large industrial area. It will be served by a new international airport, several facilities to improve the local living conditions, and it will be linked with the rest of the country and with China by road and train. The port became partially operational in November 2016 when a joint Sino-Pakistani truck convoy successfully travelled from north to south across Pakistan and reached Gwadar, where the containers were shipped to overseas destinations. Yet the remaining projects are still under construction. As far as other components are concerned, 9 of them are already operational. These include a coal-powered electricity generation plant in Karachi and a similar one in the Punjab region, several wind farms and the Quaid-e-Azam solar park, one of the largest in the world. Another 13 facilities are being completed and are scheduled to become soon operational. Yet there have been some setbacks as well. Combined with Pakistan's shaky financial condition, this has raised doubts over the general tenor of the CPEC project. The first aspect to consider is that Pakistan's political and financial situation is not very promising for the future of CPEC. Former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was a supporter of the project, but in August 2018 he was substituted by Imran Khan, who on the contrary has criticised the initiative out of concerns over corruption and a lack of transparency. He has also complained that the billions of dollars that China is investing in the country bring little benefit to Pakistani workers, as the facilities are almost entirely built by Chinese nationals. This does not mean that he has rejected CPEC, but he is certainly less enthusiastic about it than his predecessor. In addition, Pakistan is crossing troubled waters in financial terms. According to the Express Tribune, a Pakistani newspaper, the country owes $40 billion to China. This has raised the alarm over a debt trap, meaning that China may exploit its financial leverage on Pakistan to exert political influence. In this regard, it is true that Pakistan's net public debt is estimated at 67.6% of GDP, that its external debt amounted to $82 billion at the end of 2017, and that the federal government must face a chronic penury of foreign currency, which is a problem when having to repay external debts. Therefore, there are doubts about Pakistan's financial tenor in the immediate future. The country received various loans from the IMF in the past, but it has rejected the latest $8 billion bailout plan. Instead, Mr. Khan's government preferred to demand financial aid to a few friendly countries, notably Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and China. This has already brought some fruits. An agreement has been reached between Islamabad and Abu Dhabi for a support package worth $6.2 billion, with $3 billion scheduled to be sent shortly. Similarly, Saudi Arabia's Prince bin Salman will soon sign a deal for building a $10 billion oil refinery in Gwadar, thus adding further significance to the port city. Cooperation in other sectors will also be discussed. In regard to China, the situation is more complex. Bilateral relations remain good, but there are growing concerns about the completion of CPEC, at least in all of its parts. In the context of its troubled financial situation, Pakistan has recently announced its withdrawal from the Rahim Yar Khan power station on the basis that electricity production capability is already sufficient and that consequently the project will not be economically viable. Yet this may be a political excuse to hide the real problem, namely that there are not the funds for it. In addition, there are delays in the construction of the smart port in Gwadar. In this regard, Chinese companies have allegedly warned that Pakistan will need to pay to cover the additional costs caused by this postponement. These events have created much speculation about the completion of CPEC as a whole, especially in India, where major newspapers like the Times of India have reported such news. As a matter of fact, there is a sensible degree of strategic rivalry between Beijing and New Delhi, who perceives its northern neighbour and its close ties with Islamabad as a potential threat. On its part, China has responded to the recent events along a double line. State-sponsored media like the Global Times have published articles where they reassure the solidarity of the Sino-Pakistani partnership and about the determination of both sides to end the works on CPEC. At the same time, they have accused other countries of being jealous and of having aggressive intentions. It is clear that the message was a response to the news about the recent setbacks of the CPEC project reported by Indian media. By explicitly addressing the recent reports by Indian news channels, the Global Times has also downplayed the entity of Pakistan's China-owned debt and have suggested third parties not to meddle in this issue, all while affirming that India will also benefit from CPEC. According to such Chinese articles, which cite China's embassy in Pakistan as a source for the figures, Islamabad does not owe $14 billion to Beijing. Instead, they claim the debt only amounts to over $6 billion including interest. Apart from this, the security aspect should also be mentioned. CPEC crosses territories where terrorist and separatist groups are present. Some of them do not see China favourably, and this represents a non-negligible threat to the project. In fact, some attacks have already taken place against Chinese objectives. In August 2018, a suicide bombing injured some Chinese engineers. In November, a secessionist movement called the Balochistan Liberation Army targeted the Chinese consulate in Karachi. Up to now, none of these events has seriously hampered CPEC, but this may be the beginning of a trend that could hamper the project in the long term. With such contradictory reports, it is difficult to assess the future of CPEC and the real entity of the China-led debt trap looming over Pakistan. What is sure though is that Islamabad has indeed some financial problems and that this may negatively impact the project. The recent cancellation of the Rahim Yar Khan power plant and the delays over Gwadar smart port suggest that there may be already complications in this sense. Yet, unless Pakistan enters in a serious financial crisis or faces a collapse of the state, it seems that the project will be completed, at least in part. That said, the other certain thing is that CPEC and China's presence in Pakistan is not viewed positively by India, and in geopolitical terms, this is probably the most relevant aspect. That's all for today guys, thanks for watching another KJ vid. What are your views on CPEC? Is it a good thing or a bad thing for Pakistan? Is it likely to succeed or fail? We would love to hear your views in the comments below, especially if you're from Pakistan. Finally, please consider supporting us on Patreon so we can produce more of these geopolitical reports to help keep us independent and free from political influence. That's all for now, see you next time.